we're going to talk about who we are and who we're becoming, and start with the beginnings of this group. And Pauline will welcome you first. This collective reflection is her vision.
Thanks, Lynn. Good morning, everyone. Afternoon here, and I know that people are not all in the same time zone. So even that, and just even everything that Lynn had said, you know, around reflection and who we are, and welcoming you. So there's me, and then there's you, and I suppose that's the most important component of this, is that we bring ourselves here first, you know, and then there's a meeting of some sort. So in that way, it's just really taking a moment and coming back to, it's not even ourselves, that the language always becomes defining, but it's coming back to the space that's alive in us, you know. The more that I read Jen Lynn's words, it's almost poetic, you know, that there's a bringing and a moving towards whatever is alive in the space, you know. After that, maybe we can, whoever we are, it's like the curiosity of seeing, well, if there's kind of a movement, next movement towards something even more alive and peaceful, I suppose. Ultimately, that's it's changing the resonance of what wants to move. It wants to move life, moving towards itself more. So I think, Lynn, you had prepared a clip after our origins, and really that has become a tradition now, honouring the space that we're in certainly First Nations. So it's like maybe that, it's even remembering the echoes of what has come forward to now. So I think that's a clip there.
Yes, yes. Well, first, I want to just say a couple of words about what we mean by participating in our own development. That's a way that I describe focusing, that usually we're always developing. Life is developing, as Pauline says, it's moving, it's opening, it's becoming. But focusing enables us to intentionally participate in that opening, becoming, to touch into where we are and who we're becoming. And so the planning committee wanted to give us a chance to just settle back and see our beginnings and our present, and maybe to think about what we want to become. Of course, what we want to become doesn't always happen the way we want it. I always say that when you start a group, it's like having a baby. You may have one intention for it, but it's going to be itself. And this group is itself. And it's unbelievable that it's almost 4 years that we've had this group. 4 years. So we're going to just watch a tiny 2-minute clip of the introduction of the very first meeting in April 2020, and then see what we remember from it, or from when we started.
I am so excited. I am thrilled to be with you and to start this new project. And what I'm hoping is that this project will be a community rather than a group, because a group is a smaller thing, and we're sort of making room for anyone who needs help in helping, and so there's a kind of vision of inclusiveness and openness, and now I'm making room for everybody that I love. I think we can only make room for 100 people,
but Vivian, who is my co-leader in China, is telling me that we have 30 Chinese guests, participants, and we would have 50 if we could handle them, but I think we can't at this moment. But it will, this community has the beauty of being international, and that we're making it together. I'm embodying the initiating of it, but we'll all make it together. And Isabel is helping me, and Melinda is co-hosting this. We're hosting it from the Focusing Oriented Relational Community Empowerment Project that Isabel is leader of, and Focusing Initiatives International that Melinda is the head of. And so we're hoping that everybody will co-make this together. It's an experiment. We don't know how this will be. I just want to say that as all of you, I've been so shocked and disoriented by the magnitude of this world crisis. And I kept wondering, what is it that I can contribute other than the groups that I do and the psychotherapy that I do? Felt like something else was needed. And then it came to me to have this this support for helpers, because so many of you are overwhelmed. I mean, everybody's overwhelmed, but then the people who are trying to help and responsible for other people and holding all of the anxiety, those people are extra overwhelmed. So this group this community is for you. I am so.
That's lovely. How do you feel about looking back at it, Lynn? Does it feel like a different time, or are you surprised that it has emerged? Yeah, or kept going so long?
Yes, it's so interesting to look back on it, and I'm remembering being in the country and fleeing the city, and just how shocked we all were, and it's amazing that this has gone on and expanded and grown for 4 years. So I'm curious about what you all picked up on in terms of the original vision, and where we are. How have we done, or what have we added, or what has fallen away?
Just curious if there's if there's people here that were part of that original initiative back then.
Yes,
Yeah. Who was there? Dorothy, Jim, Sophie, yeah, Nancy.
Charles, were you
Robert.
there at the beginning?
You're muted, Charles.
Yeah, I don't remember. I got on late, so I missed watching the clip. What was the date? What was the date of that?
It was April 2020. And
It's possible. It's possible.
Rachel was there. So what did you pick up on in terms of how we started? I found it interesting that that I was making a distinction between a community and a group. And I think that's something for us to talk about now, because we have a cohesive gathering, and we have new people that come almost every time. But for me, a group has a solidity, and it wants to be, a group often wants to be a closed system. And a community is something that's an open system. In a community, you don't expect everybody to be like you or to agree with you. But often in a group, people do want people to be like them and agree with them. Although maybe I'm not being fair to the nature of groups. But anyway, I was curious about what you thought about that. The idea of openness, that we want everybody, and it's interesting that we said 100 people, everybody to find a home here and to be supported in helping people. Do you think that's what we have here 4 years later?
I found it interesting that you talked about a crisis, and I had to think, which crisis is this? We've been through so many crises. I have to figure out which one you're referring to.
That one was such a big one. It was like when you had to keep account of how long the germs would be on this kind of object or that kind of object, and washing your hands a million times, and hearing in New York, hearing sirens ambulances every second.
I've seen this group, this community evolve, because I remember being part of the group in the very beginning and feeling like I was in such a dark place and feeling somewhat isolated. And it was such a wonderful connection for me to be here and not feel so alone with everything that was going on in the world. And then seeing it evolve, even though we've been through a lot in the world, but I've seen this community evolve into there's more light, things have lifted from the time that we were in the midst in this, I felt like in a cave of some sort, and coming out of the cave, things have transformed. There are different issues today, but I'm trying to find the word for it. It's just opened up more somehow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you've seen this group, it feels like this group has opened up more as the world has opened up more.
Yeah.
Lynn, this is BJ. I can echo what Lenore said. I remember getting the email on April the 23rd or so, and immediately remembering how I had felt at 9/11. And how at 9/11 there wasn't a response that I could remember in my life like this one has been, and just this profound gratitude that there were people around the world who saw themselves as helpers, who were trained to be helpers. It was the international scope of it from the very beginning, and a real sense of hope.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it was so special then to have an international group, because we were used to meeting in person. It felt like a terrible loss to just see people on a screen, but then it was an incredible gift to be able to be with people from all over the world.
It was a comforting and intellectually stimulating and emotionally stimulating place to come every Monday morning.
Mm.
Something that I maybe couldn't always get to for one reason or another, but I did often and whenever I could. I experienced it as a comforting place to be stimulated and hear other people's views. Was just felt wonderful.
I agree with you, Nancy, and everyone who spoke. One of the things that, yeah, there was this comfort in this. For me, it was like, oh, starting the week was Monday morning help for the helpers. Something that seemed more secure, certain in the midst of all the uncertainties we were living at the time. Felt like something I could count on, and people who were working out there or trying to help out there, and being in it at the same time. So I felt a circle I really cherished and cherish to this day. Yeah. And I feel like the trust has really developed. There is an openness for also divergence and differences and no's, and that I really appreciate, and a something going in the direction of being really as ourselves as we can, even though we know we are recorded. Sometimes that's still like, oh my gosh. But yeah, so thank you, Lynn, for and everybody else who was helping you start this.
Were you there at the very beginning, Sophie?
Yes.
And you were BJ? That's amazing. Wonderful.
The picture was also a reminder of the beauty of nature that still existed, despite all of the illness that was going on around us. The flowers were blooming beautifully. And here where I live, the countryside, it was a safe place to be. And it was wonderful to see it. So the picture reminded me of that.
Yes, yes. Okay. Katerina, would you help us to just sort of go inside and see what we remember about, what each of us remember about coming in to help the helpers whenever it was?
Did Katharina come back that time?
Oh, did she?
Did she come back, Christine?
Did she get?
I don't see her.
Oh, okay. Well, I can help there just to suggest that we take a breath and just see whatever we remember, and then we'll think about what we want in the future. But whatever we remember when we came into this group and we thought, well, what is this? What manner of thing is this? So just take a breath and see if there's a memory that comes of anything. What it was like to have a group on Zoom was different. And maybe,
One thing that was different was that I was reading a paper about, it's one of your papers, and you were talking about these groups, and then you said, and then we had to move to Zoom. And it struck me that these groups were not on Zoom. I just assumed they were on Zoom all along.
right, we hardly remember when everything was in person.
Mm.
I'm wondering if there are any other sessions that people remember particularly.
So I was completely new to focusing. I joined in August of 2020, and I had no idea what was going on here. But I did have a lot of people relying on me and in my recovery community as well. And so I felt connected to the title, Help for Helper. And I just couldn't help myself. I kept coming back because I had an invitation from Lenore. Sorry, I have to call you out, Lenore. Thank you so much. And I forget what I was going to say, but I was going to, oh no, the session that stood out for me was Claire. I can't remember her last name, but Claire gave a session and she went through the focusing questions. And that's when I really started to understand. And then I got the book on focusing by Jean Genlin. And I started to really understand and develop a relationship, a very intimate relationship with it myself. And I would ask myself those questions every day. And it became a healing path for me. And then getting a partner and all that. So I'm immensely grateful to this group. You have welcomed me. I am not a therapist, but I'm a helper in my own right, in my own recovery community and within my family. So I'm just so grateful to the group. Thank you so much for welcoming me in. It's been such an honor to be with all of you.
Thank you so much. I think that's a characteristic of this community, is the welcoming of everybody, and really important part of it. I think I'll hand this over to the next part, and we'll talk about where we're going. So are we ready? Are we ready for that?
Yeah.
Good.
I think it's kind of the scary part, because this is what we do in focusing. We kind of let the space inform us, and yet actually we kind of have to do something with that as well. So it's even again, it goes back to who we are, because a collective we is only individuals, and in this moment it's just 29 participants. So, and it's like, even who some people were there in the beginning, some weren't, but one of the words that maybe emerged out of what we've said already was a trust. I think you mentioned that, Sophie. Was it you, Sophie, that talked about trust, and that a developing trust? I don't know that can be engineered, and it's only the individual, me as an individual, can trust or entrust myself into it. It's like, well, it's not even testing. So I was looking at Greg Madison has just a wonderful conversation with Kevin McGivern, and he talks about whole body focusing, and in their conversation, it's what isn't being said, but that Kevin is reaching for the words of what's implicit in what's there. And he said in that clip, it's 3 weeks ago, it's been on published on the YouTube channel. He said it was clear that something was happening, but it wasn't really sure of how it related to the space even. And he mentioned that the first step was that the movement is active and alive and purposeful, So even the question is like who we are, where we've come from, where we're going. It sort of almost implies that we know that our identity, that we are an identity. And rather than, well, whatever excitement that is on a Monday morning, it's like, well, I'd turn up because I want to, because it's a lovely beginning, you know, and yet, well, maybe we don't have to go anywhere other than that. So it's, well, I have no agenda other than a curiosity and saying, well, is this movement more, not so much more intelligent? Has it something to tell us, you know? And again, Kevin McEwan mentions that the revelation as needs to happen sometimes isn't ready to reveal itself, but that the structure, that more structures needs to be in place. And maybe that's what this conversation is about. And it's maybe just lightly holding it. It's a Monday morning, other than maybe just us being here together, safe. Maybe it won't go anywhere, but maybe it's something moving, you know, and I think it's maybe coming back to our individual sense of safety, because now we're in a safe space. Or being with whatever is alive in the space, in the individual space, that is as real as it will get in any moment. How are you really, you know, and I suppose it's putting words on that, or sharing that, and being heard in that. So I don't want to define that or make it anyway concrete, but it's just a curiosity. It's playing. It's almost a dance, and following the movement of that within the individual body I'm in, and you know, it's an honoring of us, I suppose, you know. Yeah. So I don't know if that you mentioned, which I'm curious about, the phrase, Lynn, intentionality. I don't know whether that's a bit premature for that, but just even maybe that's, have we an intention? Do we need one? Intentional and participating in our development. Might or might, yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
This
The
is
curiosity.
This is Roberta bowing in from Madison, Wisconsin. You know, I just found out about you all about, I don't know, it must be about 8 months ago. And I have no idea where you came from. I mean, it's like you appeared somehow, somewhere, because I happen to be a therapist in the Milwaukee area. And, but yet it was like, who are these people? How is it that they're all of a sudden in my world on Monday morning? And why am I in their world? And I have to say, there was something so delightfully unknown and mysterious. And I think you're all angels. I mean, if I want to take it to the place that I would prefer to be, what I intentionally like is the idea of being surrounded by the unknown that I believe in. That there's something so mysteriously, you know, that I never know what's going to happen. You know, I could be every Monday morning, you take me in new directions. And I have met some of you much more in the breakout rooms, and it's just been so delightful. So I wasn't here when it all began, but I really do see it. I mean, if I can take it to the level of divine intervention, I would say that's where I'm going with this.
Wow.
It's like when I believe something came in for all the right reasons, that's the way it feels. So thank you.
Wow.
That's wonderful to hear.
Yes, absolutely. So rich and warm.
And it doesn't matter, you know, it's funny. I will sometimes tell people about you and say, I don't know where it came from. All of a sudden I was in this group. It was like I opened the door in the back of the room, and there was this group, and I'm now in this forest, and it's the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, or whatever, you know. It's like, and it's just this wild group. It's very fun.
It is quite magical when you just all of a sudden are in this breakout room, or all of a sudden in this larger group. And and all of these people. And I think an important part of this project that maybe came out of divine intervention is having someone present a reflection at the beginning. And then this group is so wonderful at taking that, whatever the person offers. Some of them very experiential, some of them much more conceptual, some of them very polished, some of them sort of raw, and just taking what's, as Pauline would say, what's alive there, and weaving it into our own experience. It's quite amazing that this group can do that. So we also get to hear from focusers all over the world that way. We're even going to, one of these days, get Vivian to give a reflection.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I wanted to just say one last thing, and that is that it was exactly what I needed. You know, when you ask for the thing that you really need, this is exactly what I needed. And in saying that, focusing was something that I knew about. I'm a long-term student of process work and Arnold Mindell and all that, but I never really fully understood the focusing aspect of it, and it's essential. And I needed it. And here you are, and what a great way to learn it, but through this kind of experience, because you've all delivered it in such unique and you know, varied ways. It's all, each time you, even this moment is such, you know, it's so, it lands so well. It's perfect.
Wow.
Do you have a sense, Roberta, of being part of that magic now, or being part of, you know, part of that residence and, you know, belonging? Yeah.
Absolutely. And
oh, great.
The way you want to live, the way I want to live my life is in understanding something beyond, and I'm not, you know, I'm pointing up here, but around and in and out and under, and the whole experience of being in alive. No idea what's unfolding, but just appreciating it. It's just so rich. Even if I'm only aware of it, a teeny bit of it as it's happening, this group helps me to expand in my belief of that.
Lovely. Thanks, Roberta. I see your hand up, Liz. Sorry if I'm missing others. Yeah. You're just on mute.
Okay. Hello.
Hiya. Good morning.
I came to this group late, kicking and screaming after my partner. The kind of sentimentality and treacly kind of tone is so unlike me. And then I had a moment where there was a group about climate change. I think Isabel moderated it. And everybody is sort of one. There's this kind of, we all agree on the tone, and I have trouble with that because I often don't. And I decided to go for it. And I said something in my long-winded way that was really saying, get over yourselves, all planets disintegrate. Something like that. And I thought, oh my God, as I usually feel after I blurt something out, this regret and what's going to happen now? And I think it was Isabel who just reflected me. She just reflected that I had that feeling and that point of view, and I wasn't judged. And it was really revelatory to me because I did not think that my, to use certain words like negativity or, something like, I felt that there was a way you had to be here. And I've never been that. And I want to be accepted for not being that and not feel that I have to stay away from the more sentimental therapist types. That somehow there is a place for me. And I really felt that there was a place for me. And it's really been a life change. And even then later, when I was getting ready to present my graphic memoir to this group, I spoke with a good non-therapist artist friend. And I told her about this group in my presentation, and she said, I don't know, Liz. I'd be careful. This group may not, they're not gonna get you. They're not gonna get your sense of humor. They're too earnest for you. And I decided again, I don't know, they accepted the planet exploding theory and the get over yourselves theory. And I presented it here, and it was great. I really felt appreciated, and I realized that I was stereotyping this group and making them othering and making them all into, notice I say them, making you into, this unified kind of oppressive goodness circle. So I'm still trying to fit in with my own particular voice that doesn't just, oh yes, oh yeah, it's so true, that, well, I don't know.
Sorry to disappoint you, Liz.
But I think one thing I found also, to go on long-windedly, is that this is bringing up another topic of groups. I think there's a group norm that when I've gone into breakout rooms or had relationships with people, focusing relationships outside of the group as a whole, a lot of people, it turns out, will say that they have similar feelings to mine that they don't express in the group. That not everybody is so love, that there's a kind of a way that there is a group norm here. But individuals are kind of, saying, similar to me. I don't always feel so peace and love. So I guess part of what I do as a helper, in quotes, is I think I give voice to some of the stuff that a lot of people don't say because they're too scared. I'm scared, but my wish to speak is greater than my fear. So that's a role I've sort of taken on, for better or worse.
Well, thanks, Liz. And I remember your presentation, and it was really, I'm sure that we can go back over those because they're still there, so that each one is individual, kind of almost presentation in the moment, Yeah, and I'm not sure whether it was you but I certainly have brought forward that idea of, am I an audience member or am I participating? So I don't know whether you had coined that phrase, but I associate it with you anyway. Yeah, something about relationships. So yeah, it's very rich. Yeah.
I think
unified oppressive goodness. That's good.
I think, Liz, that you have an important role here.
Oppressive goodness. I love that phrase.
Yeah.
Oppressive goodness.
Well, there's a term that I didn't coin, which is called toxic positivity.
Yes.
So that's really what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
When does it become toxic? And when does it become a group herd mentality that you have to conform to, or you're the outcast?
Right. The original vision that I think has developed is that we don't want to have like-mindedness. We don't want to have oppressive anything. and we want everyone's way of being to be included, so to have something alive and not all the same. And so you have an important role here, Liz, and we need you. And we
Thank you.
need the others who feel differently than the feeling of that the group is expressing, to speak up. And I think that we have developed in that, accepting more and more differences.
You have your hand up, Natty. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Pauline. And I have a couple of things to say, but I do remember that meeting, Liz, and that is one of the things, that is one of the things that I love about this group, that I've never felt that I couldn't say my truth. On the contrary, I remember once, I think it was in a session you presented, Charles, that I said something about not being included because you were mentioning something about a holiday in the US or something like that. And I could say how I felt, and I never felt bad about that, or that I was going to be judged or whatever. So one of the things that I really value about this group is that this is my feeling, that I can be authentic. I can speak my truth. And another quality that I have, because I was thinking, why do I didn't come from the beginning, but I don't remember when or how, as Roberta said, I don't know how I found the group, but from the moment I found it, I think I've never missed. If I missed a Monday, it was because I really had something very important to do, but I don't put clients at this time. I postpone everything till after the Help for Helpers, because for me, it's so valuable, so valuable, and it has always been. So the other quality that I'm referring to is the type of interaction, because it was like, it came on Monday after my Saturday and Sunday, when I get together with other people, maybe cycling or whatever, that have another type of connection. And it's like Monday mornings, oh, okay, I begin the week connecting the way I love connecting, like in a much deeper way. There's a quality of listening here, of listening to every single voice, of pausing, of allowing for that voice to be heard, because there's some reflection or some whatever, or a pause or something. So that is for me so valuable. And then also in this, having had the opportunity to go into different breakout rooms, I had the opportunity to get to know these amazing people a bit more. And this is something that I always say that I love knowing a little bit more about people, and it's a treasure, and each one is a treasure. We are all a treasure in ourselves. So and this type of relating is for me precious, and I do want for this to happen more in the world in general. So I'm very, very, very grateful that when I first came here, it was like, I felt everybody knew each other and I was the new one. Are they going to accept me? Am I going to be able to speak? Blah, blah, blah. And then now it feels like, oh, it's like coming here every Monday is what, and then all the topics and the different, as you said, Lynn, or somebody else said, like, each presenter or the one who opens up brings something different, and all the group is like welcoming whatever is there, and going deeper into all of that. So for me, it always carries my experience forward in many wonderful ways. So I'm very grateful to you, Lynn, and to everybody here. And to the disagreement, and to being able to speak the truth.
Yes.
Right. Thank you, Natty. Yeah. Did you want to do just a reflection, Lynn? Bring people back in, and I don't know that we need to. I think February there's a maybe a core group of if we can call ourselves that, a committee, and sort of February we're talking about love and where it's going. Do you want to say anything about what is next week, Jim?
Next week is Liz, I'm sorry. This is terrible. But next week is Valentine's Day. And so we're going to be talking about what we want the word love to mean. And we're hoping that you'll bring stories, little teeny stories, poems, music, images of what we mean by that word, what each of us means by that. And we'll share that next week. Maybe it's time for our breakout rooms now,
Sure.
right? And we've talked about our experience now of the group. But maybe you would like to talk in the breakout room about what you want more of, how you would want us to develop. What can we be? We're exploring what we have been, what we are, but what can we be and what would you want us to be? And each one of us is making this group. So what you want it to be is really important. What would you want to explore more? How would you like us to be?
I'll just say a message from Monica is perfect as is. So it's, yeah, I mean, it's whatever is happening, it's been created in the moment, so that it's not as if the individuals are making it happen or presenting it. Like, well, we're holding something that Roberta mentioned, like a magical. So it's like, well, wow, that's the resonance that I certainly enjoy because it's a healing sense of possibility of potential.
Absolutely. One of the themes that I picked up is that we want to be more and more open and to be more and more inclusive and to have not the oppressive goodness, but all different styles of international helpers. And we want to be supported in who each of us are. But that was what I picked up on. But in your breakout rooms, you'll have much more to say about what you want us to be or anything that's alive for you, as Pauline said. So we'll come back at 9:30 and let's see what comes there. Yeah, we're all back.
Yeah.
Magic, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So Charles, what happened in your breakout room? Oh,
Well, we discussed a little bit about just all the continued kind of the conversation we were having about what it was like to be in this group, which was, there's always these anxieties about speaking up, particularly some more than others. And but this was a group where those anxieties don't disappear, but it is a welcoming space, and people can feel more free and more able to take a chance on. And what happens when you take a chance and maybe you don't quite get to put together what you want to say? All the complexities of speaking up in a group.
Maybe we should have a session about speaking up, speaking out, speaking for, speaking to.
What makes for safety?
Mhm.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious that being listened to and being accepted, and people taking a serious interest in what you mean and what you're saying helps.
Yes.
Yeah, and being spoken to. I think we talked about it a little bit.
Yes.
Hearing someone else say something to you changes something inside.
Being responded to, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Charles. That really reflects already in our group. The last thing that came up was a group or a community. And when I hear the kinds of things that you two are celebrating, Susan and Charles, that feels more like a group to me than a community. Just to imagine how we might explore together what are the great things about seeing ourselves as a community that might preclude some things we might have available in a group, and vice versa. It was a lively idea that came up for us, and you and Susan immediately answered some of the questions I had.
Are you suggesting there could be a kind of intimacy in a group that's not so much in a community, in a broader community?
I think that might be what might be a hidden bias that would be in that attitude. Yeah, a different kind of intimacy. And
no, that's already interesting. A different kind of intimacy.
It is, isn't
that's
it?
why that's.
Yes, that's true.
And that gets to personality and temperament traits, and the very genuine stuff we're born with. If you have two children, anybody you know. There's intimacy and there's intimacy. There's some child that never wants to be touched, and it's not because anything's wrong with them. They just don't like it too much. They're in their heads. And then there are other children who really, you only can show you love them by picking them up and swirling them around and all of that.
There's no one size fits all here, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what's the difference in a group and a community. A community is a group of people, and a group can be a community. So that, I guess I need to look up the definitions. But they both feel like they could contain some closeness and interaction and benefits. When you hear you need a community to raise a child, it's not quite the right term, but you need a village. A village is kind of a community.
Yes. I think originally my distinction was that community is open, in the sense that it isn't that some people belong and some people don't belong and you have to join. It's this sort of flow of new people, new ideas, people disagreeing, making it possible for people to disagree, to be different. And a group tends to be a set number of people. And I think that was what I originally thought, but I guess our definitions, maybe we can be a group and a community. For the people that want groupness, they could be a group, and maybe we can choose everything.
I just wanted to say one of the things that came out of our group, I started thinking about conflict resolution, and that's part of community as well. What we're talking about differences and disagreements, and how do we, work with that? And that's always been an interest of mine, but I haven't had much work in that area except, in my own work. But I think conflict resolution would be, just even if we had one Monday morning on that, or 2 Monday mornings, with that. Would help.
Yeah, I think that's,
That would be great, Lenora. I just feel like, okay, let's create conflict because there's always, there's never any short of conflict, but it's I think it's something around the excitement of others wanting to hold a space. So that seems incredibly creative, especially when you need it most, that there's others there know how to do this and that they're not afraid of conflict. I suppose that's, yeah. So, yeah, NVC is just a conflict. Thanks, Lenore.
yeah, yeah. It occurs to me that it would be maybe a good idea to bring our community empowerment project into this group for a reflection, just what our experience has been trying to deal with these issues and develop ways of using a focusing attitude with them. So those who are in the community empowerment project might do a reflection on that.
Group,
Well,
we,
yeah. Mhm.
Hi, Charles. Group, we really appreciated the poetry that happens as a closing of this. For me, I keep calling it collective, but I'm not sure.
Nice name.
Like collective. But that's really something precious for me, and the way it anchors, the way it closes by living like poetry does, or art does, opening to more, and it feels like it sends me off from here. It's a lovely transition that would not want to let go of. Definitely one. The other thing we were talking about is, and it feels like that's what we're trying to be here, is like, how can we bring this being, I can't remember the exact quote of Lynn, but when he talks about being his own shaky being, or being able to be with his vulnerable self, that carrying this forward, is there a collective of here that could carry this forward? As does this exist in the world, a place where we can be, or shaky being, and being in the murky and not knowing, and being with that vulnerability that has a place? It's like in certain communities where being a handicap, being challenged in it has a place, it has a role, and I feel like this, or being elders, it's like that I feel that is missing in the world, that wisdom. Oh, it's missing in my world. And carrying this forward, it feels like there is some seeds of this here that I love and would want more of that in the world.
Yeah, yeah. To take what we're developing here and bring it more into the world.
That sounds like Sophie really putting words on something, I said certainly would be my wish to experience more of this, and going back to even terms or concepts that already have words like deep democracy. So every time that I find something in myself that I close down, then I'm not an example of that. So it's a practice. I'll get loads of practice, and the fear of bringing myself to another group or a group and say, well, they're going to judge me and I'm not good enough. well, actually, the first one that says has to stop that now is me, constantly stopping that and embracing the part of me that's afraid of stopping that, So it's lovely. Thank you. I love that.
Just want to say very briefly that it seems to me so urgent that we find alternatives to war as ways for nations to resolve conflicts, and that we really should look forward to some way that a war is actually abolished as a way of resolving conflicts. And what does focusing have to contribute in terms of people pausing before they murder their fellow human being, or start off into wars and think, wait a minute, isn't there some other way to resolve this?
Yeah.
So this conflict resolution theme is very profound and extremely urgent in my mind. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Charles. Maybe you could.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind presenting or leading a session on that.
Yeah. We'll send you the dates that are open, and others of you, we would love to have you lead reflections on some of these issues. Okay, I think it's time for our poem, Dorothy. Thank you so much.
The poem today is from John Donahue, For a New Beginning, and it's from his book To Bless the Space Between Us. In out of the way places of the heart, where your thoughts never think to wander, this beginning has been quietly forming, waiting until you were ready to emerge. For a long time, it has watched your desire, feeling the emptiness growing inside you, noticing how you willed yourself on, still unable to leave what you had outgrown. It watched you play with the seduction of safety and the gray promises that sameness whispered, heard the waves of turmoil rise and relent, wondered, would you always live like this? Then the delight when your courage kindled and out you stepped onto new ground, your eyes young again with energy and dream, a path of plenitude opening before you. Though your destination is not yet clear, you can trust the promise of the opening. Unfurl yourself into the grace of beginning. This is at one with your life's desire. Awaken your spirit to adventure. Hold nothing back. Learn to find ease and risk. Soon you will be home in a new rhythm, for your soul senses the world that awaits you.
Wow, that's perfect.
Yeah,
Really
that's lovely.
perfect for this. Who suggested that poem, Dorothy?
Was it Pauline? I think.
Yeah.
Thank
Well,
you.
it suggested itself because just in the last minute, blessing the space between us. Beautiful. Thank you, Dorothy. Yeah, it was just
Thank you.
really.
I think Monica wants to speak. I don't know. Do you want?
Well, it's time to stop, and we're hoping that you will
Okay.
send
All
us
right.
poems, stories, images, ideas, quotes about love, what we want the word love to mean.
To me.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll see you next week. Bye-bye, everybody.